Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it Allowing Life to Prove Me Wrong. What do I mean by that? As we surrender to what is, because remember that we're conditioned to quote-unquote control, as if we have control anyway, to pursue what we think that is going to make us happy, that is going to give us peace. And what happens is that in that pursuit we're overlooking beingness, which is our natural state, which is, it's not a state per se, but it's a natural beingness. It's always. We cannot never not be. We are always being. And that beingness is peace, is happiness. But because it's overshadowed by thinking, by conditioning, we believe that happiness and peace will be experienced as a consequence of whatever we do, okay, or whatever we get. But interestingly enough, allowing life to prove me wrong is a way of noticing how, when there's a complete surrender, I can experience the peace, the happiness, the joy that is my nature, you see? And if I try to control life, even though I don't have that control, but again, it appears as if we do, we think that we're making choices, not realizing that the choices have been made through us. That's why the second video of the series, which is called We Have Freewill, I have the link on the description. I always suggest you watch that video, so you can see how this idea of being in control is a complete, it's just a product of the imagination. But anyway, so because we believe that we know what we want and we think we try to control life, we pursue all those things, and then sometimes end up paying the consequence, which could be, okay, I got what I want and I'm still not feeling fulfilled. So what the mind does is that, oh, so you have to pursue the next thing and the next thing. And life is a constant chase leading us nowhere. But the problem is that when I chase something and I think that I derive pleasure, which is what it is, I derive an imaginary pleasure. Now that convinced me that this is what makes me happy. But then when the happiness, which is not really happiness, it's just pleasure, withers away, then because I have that as a belief, you see, I'm stacking one belief on top of the other one. That belief showed me that I derive pleasure by getting this or doing this. Now I'm going to pursue the next thing because I'm pursuing that pleasure, which I've already convinced myself that it's only experience, which I call it happiness, of course, which is happiness and pleasure are not the same thing, but we label the pleasure happiness. Now I've convinced myself that happiness will be achieved when I get the next thing. And of course that keeps reinforcing the belief in the character. But for now, let me get to the point. So when will be the time where the chasing ceases and I'm ready to recognize the peace, the happiness, the permanent joy in which I always rest? See? Well, when I finally get to the place where I realize that, you know what, all I want is peace and that's it. And in that moment, I see how life is trying to prove me wrong by saying, everything you've been doing is being a way of trying to chase what you already are. You see, you've been chasing objects, relationships, achievements, everything in order to somehow experience the peace, the happiness that is what you already are. You see, so if you allow life to prove you wrong, it will do a couple of things. Number one, it'll give you the peace that you are, which is the peace that passes all understanding, has nothing to do with circumstances or experiences. It has to do with knowing who you are. And also, it'll show you how life takes care of life. Life takes care of itself. What I mean by that is I don't have to worry about what to do or where to go or what to say. I just, in beingness, I see how I find myself doing, going or moving or saying, but from a very spontaneous and organic space. You see? It's not that I'm sitting in a couch doing nothing. It's that life is moving the instrument to do when doing is necessary. You see? As opposed to me doing, trying to control what I cannot control anyway, trying to prove that I'm right, not realizing that the greatest gift is allowing life to prove me wrong. So when I wake up in the morning, for example, I have no idea how life is going to unfold, and I'm okay with that. And when I think I do have an idea, I surrender, saying, life, prove me that I'm wrong. And it always does. But proving that I'm wrong is not a punishment or anything. Prove me that I'm wrong is more like a reward, saying, you see, you're wrong by thinking that you're this individual and that pursuing or chasing things are going to complete you. You're wrong. Let me prove you wrong. Let me show you that you are whole, you're perfect, you're complete. You see, that's what I mean by allowing life to prove me wrong. So the invitation in these videos is not to show you how to live your life or how to do or control or not control. It's not about that. The message that is being conveyed here in these videos, or the invitation, is a surrender, which is not a giving up, again, in a sense of resignation or anything like that. It's a resting, you see. It's resting in beingness, so that I can observe this parody called the human experience without being distracted, without being, swallowed up by it, so to speak. And then I can live happily, you see, because I see the play as a play. I still engage in the play, but with a different mentality. And in that sense, I am at peace, I am happy, while I seem to be doing what I am doing, while simultaneously recognizing that I am not doing anything, that life is actually doing everything through me. And there's a peace in which I rest, because I know that it's all handled, it's all taken care of. But for this, I have to want peace above all else. If I want to use this as a strategy to somehow achieve the things that I think I want, then this is not going to work, because this is not about feeding the belief in the character. This is about knowing who I am always. Therefore, I don't need to be concerned about how to achieve or how to get or how to pursue, none of those things. I simply allow, or I see myself how this character is allowing life to express itself through it, and then it's all a wonderful surprise. Life is a wonderful adventure. It's a beautiful journey. Yes, it's going to have pain and it's going to have pleasure, but there's no suffering, because I know who I am. So I see how life moves the character to do whatever it does, and it will have all sorts of experiences. But if I never lose sight of what I am or who I am, then all of these are simply different adventures that life put the character through in order to experience all the different dynamics of the human experience. But it doesn't matter anyway, because I always know who I am. And this is what we're pointing to here. We're pointing to the recognition of what I am, of who I am. When you know that, who cares what happened in the world of appearances? It cannot affect the space which you are. See, you are the space in which all of it seems to manifest. You are not the manifestation. The problem is that if you believe to be the manifestation, you're kind of being swept away by the movement. But if you are the spectator of the movement, then you're not swayed or caught or dragged by the movement. You are the space in which the movement is experienced, is observed, it is seen. And there's nothing to worry about, because it's all a thought anyway, and I am resting in that in which thoughts seem to appear and disappear. Let's do a quick test over here, real quick, just for the fun of it, okay? This is I do this in every video, but why not keep doing it, right? Right this moment, notice that you are. You see? You are existing. The problem is you think you're existing as an individual, but for now let's just play the game here. Right now you cannot negate the fact that you are. You are right now. You are being. That is direct experience. That is, you cannot negate that, right? So right now in beingness, notice that there's no worries, no concerns, no fear, because fears, worry, concern, and all that stuff are thoughts. See, thoughts that arises and we interpret, but in beingness, all that there is a tranquility, a space, you know, sort of a space-like, so to speak. Now, when we trust that, then we experience the peace that passes all understanding always. That never changes. And then notice how from that space life moves you. You see? And that movement is what leads to making seeming decisions. You see? Not that you're making them, but they're being made through you. You notice how life inspires you to take action if it's necessary, or not to take it if it's not necessary. But if you're not inspired to take action, you're comfortable in the silence, you see. When you are inspired to take action, you do it from that silence. That doesn't mean that life will not be dynamic. Sometimes there's a lot of dynamism happening, but all of it is happening from that silence, from that tranquility. See, when I find myself recording a song or writing a book or walking or whatever, there's dynamism in there, but I am so absorbed in the experience itself that's what I mean, that it's happening within the silence. When I'm exercising, when I'm doing whatever I do, or whatever life do through this instrument, right? And yet I also observe how the condition has a tendency to bring back to the mind, and while I'm eating I find myself thinking of the next thing, and I said, okay, I'm seeing what's going on here. That's the important thing, to be able to look through all of it. See? So when distraction happens, it's perfectly fine. When the mind is trying to tell me this is what I need to do or should do or whatever, I simply step back. Again, it's a paradox because it's not me choosing it, it's what happens through the instrument, but anyway, I'm okay with that. As Ramesh Balsekar used to say, act as if you have freedom of choice even though you know you don't have it. So it's a paradox, but I'm okay with that. But anyhow, so looking at life unfolding, seeing how the thoughts appear, trying to somehow tell me what should or shouldn't I do, and yet in that space of complete surrender, I notice if life asks me or moves me to do something or not. See, all coming from that space. And yes, once again, sometimes the space could be very dynamic. You see, I don't know, if you are in a sport match, you have to be very dynamic. But the mind is not trying to think of I'm expecting a particular result, which of course most people will think, yeah, you want to win. Well, technically speaking, that will happen if it's supposed to happen. So you don't have to feel bad if you think you lost the match. But if you step away from this idea that I have to win and you're present with the movement that is experiencing through you, it's a possibility that the winning actually happens, but not because you're trying to make it happen, but it's because it's a natural expression as a result of not letting the mind get in the way, taking you out of what is. You see? There's a great movie I suggest you watch if you have a chance, which is called Forrest Gump. It's a classic with Tom Hanks. And notice how in the movie the character is never concerned about results. The character is just present and he simply moves according to life expression through him. And interestingly enough, he ended up winning the matches, he ended up getting all the stuff that most people pursue because he was not concerned about results, he's simply being. Well, these videos are not about trying to be so you can experience results because you're missing the mark. I just use that example, but these videos are to remember that you are always being. That's the attitude. Now, what happens in the world of appearances? Well, we don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with this character, but all I know is that when I am being, resting in beingness, then there's no worry, there's no fear, there's no concern. All there is what is. And then I see how life inspires me to do whatever it is that I do, and that's it. And when I wake up in the morning, when I go to bed at night, this whole thing disappears. I completely disappears. There is no me, because the mind is not engaged. All that there is what is, which is beingness, pure beingness. And if I wake up in the morning, to me, it's just like saying, okay, well, the movie continue on, so let's see how it unfolds. You see? So again, these videos are pointing to the nature of beingness, which is what you are right now. And if you simply see how life unfolds itself, not only life will prove you wrong, but you will always be grateful that it's always proving you wrong. And well, that was the inspiration that came through this character, instrument, whatever you want to call it. Hope it served. And as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.